And now we interrupt your regular viewing program to bring you these news items.
What's up, guys, and welcome to this episode of the Shifty Crab News Break. I am your host today, Adam Very, and I am joined by the best beard in the business, Mr. Vince Haley. How you doing, Vince?
Doing well, Adam. How are you?
I'm doing great. How has your weekend been?
Oh, it's been fun. Absolutely fun. Started the Medium. Ooh, got some thoughts on that.
I want to hear them. Is it good? Like, I've heard mixed reviews about it.
I like it. I mean, I haven't run into anything that I really don't like about it. I've maybe put a couple hours into it, which people say is the slow part, but I feel like it's building a really interesting mystery that's kind of keeping me going, honestly.
Oh, what would you if someone hasn't really looked at it too much, what sort of game would you does it draw parallels with? Is there something that is quite similar to that you've played before, or is it very different to anything?
The camera style is very similar to old school Resident Evil games, where it's that fixed camera and you are basically walking around the environment with some tank controls to it. So it's got a little bit of that aspect to it, but I really like the shifting reality to it, because when it shifts, it goes split screen instead of you jumping into different worlds. So it's got that split screen where you're controlling the same character just in different environments, and the different environments look absolutely fantastic.
I've seen some of obviously the gameplay, and it looks incredible. Would you say that when it changes between the two environments, is this a really good game mechanic, or does it seem very gimmicky? Does it is it being utilized well?
I think it's being utilized well, because you're using it to solve puzzles in the world. So say there's a object in the spirit world that you can't interact with in the material world. So you have to use that set character or that set reality to help you solve the puzzle. So there's certain doors you can't enter because it doesn't have powers. So in the spirit world, you're finding these little altars where you receive your spirit abilities, and then you can charge it so that in the real world you can open a door or find combinations. It's really interesting.
Can you choose where you go into the spirit world, or is it at fixed points within the game?
So far, in my maybe hour and a half, 2 hours playing it, it's only been a story moment.
Okay.
So your character will stop and then have I don't really want to call it a seizure, but she'll get a headache, and then the screen will split, and then you're in both realities.
Oh, okay. It's like I said, it's getting pretty good reviews, pretty solid, not groundbreaking reviews, but it's getting good reviews.
Yeah.
But
I'm enjoying my time with it.
How's it running buggy wise? Is it pretty solid, or?
I haven't really run into any kind of bugs or anything. Just maybe some of the graphics don't look super great, especially the character model. It's kind of weird seeing that kind of, I don't want to say unfinished character model. I kind of want to say low res character model compared to the background and the environment, which is probably the standout in terms of graphics on that game.
Yeah, I know a lot of the screenshots have mainly been the locations, and obviously showing the two, I don't know the word that you'd use for it, realms or versions, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't really see too much of the character models in the screenshots, and maybe it's not really their strong point for this game, and they've been focusing so much on the world and not which is a shame, because it's your character, but
oh yeah, it's the thing you're looking at the majority of the time, especially in cutscenes and throughout the gameplay. So I mean, you kind of want it to look good, but really the standout is the environment, which looks absolutely gorgeous on the Series X.
Well, we'll have to get more of your review when you're a couple of more hours in. See, do you know how long the game's supposed to take? What's the sort of
I
estimated
think people
playthrough?
are saying like 6 to 8 hours, maybe. You can get through it in a weekend, or maybe just like a couple sessions. I'll definitely try to find time to keep playing it because I'm so in on this game right now.
Once the game hooks you, that's probably the best thing, isn't it? You know, like you're feeling it, you want to complete it. And I think there's a 6 to 8 hour game is a good length for a game. You know, you don't always have to have 40 hours, 50 hours. Like, it's a nice middle ground, really.
Oh yeah,
Like,
especially for something that's free on Game Pass. It definitely takes advantage of that, really. You can kind of download it and knock it out easy.
It's the beauty of Game Pass. If you don't like it, it's not cost you any money, has it?
Exactly.
So yeah, I've been playing through Spelunky.
Ooh.
And trying to play Spelunky and getting frustrated with it. It's not my normal type of game. Like,
right.
But I'm trying to broaden my horizons. So it's on PlayStation now. So I've just been playing that, and it's okay. I don't know if you've ever played it or.
No, I haven't really played any roguelike games, but I've heard people love Spelunky. How are you feeling on it?
Yeah. Well, I've put in a little bit of time. We've been playing it over the weekend, and we're not very good at it. So, like, as in, so I don't know how long the game is and how many. I know, like, I don't know how long it is to complete. I know you don't really complete these games, but we don't get very far. We change scenery like once. Basically, we go from the mine to the grassland area, and it's okay. Like, if you like this sort of game, I can see why you would love it.
Right.
And there's a lot to it, but yeah, like I get a bit bored doing the same thing again and again and again. So I'll get a little bit frustrated with it. But do you know what? You can pick it up. You're playing it within like 2 minutes. Like, no harm done. Play it for 10, 15 minutes and then go back to it a little bit later. So yeah, it's been good.
That's kind of the beauty of those games, right? You can, if you're feeling it, you can just sit down for like half an hour, a couple minutes at the most, get a couple runs in, then put it to the side for something else.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we've been doing this weekend. But enough about what we've been playing. Let's get into some hard news. Today, we're going to talk about Amazon, and it's reportedly spending nearly $500 million a year on its video game division, which, as Vince said before we came on air, couldn't even remember that Amazon were doing a video game division. So it's going well.
Right.
Going very well for them.
Knocking it out of the park, they are.
They've had a lot of issues. We'll talk about them a little bit more in depth later. The European Commission has called to investigate into Joy-Con drift for the Nintendo Switch. If you've never heard of Joy-Con drift, prepare yourself. It's a fun topic to talk about. And then finally, PlayStation files a patent for technology that lets spectators mess with you in VR, which sounds like it could be a lot of fun.
It really does.
Yeah, so more on that later. But first, we are going to talk about Amazon, and is reportedly spending nearly $500 million a year on its video game division. This is from GamesIndustry.biz, and it's Eric Van Allen. It says, Amazon's video game division has been struggling to get off the ground, and a report from Bloomberg indicates just how much has been spent on trying to make this happen. Two sources familiar with Amazon's budget told Bloomberg that the tech giant is spending nearly $500 million a year operating the video game division. This number does not include Twitch, the streaming service Amazon bought in 2014, nor does it include the cloud streaming service Amazon Luna. Amazon has brought in a number of video game veterans since first setting up its development operation, including Portal designer Kim Swift and Far Cry 2 director Clint Hocking, neither of whom are still with the company. So yeah, they've spent a lot.
they've spent so much money on something that people really forget about until you mention it to them.
Well,
It's just,
they've had some games in development that have just gone away.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing that kind of blows my mind. Like, they've been doing this for when they announce it.
Um, let's see if I can find out. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it was a while ago.
Right.
It's not recent that this was done.
No, and like having spent 500 mil a year on something that hasn't seen the light of day yet is ridiculous. But then again, it is Amazon. They have money to chuck at random things. They're going to chuck it at random things.
Exactly. And they created their engine, which was the Lumberyard engine, which we've not really been able to see.
Right.
And they had a fantasy sports game called Breakaway that was cancelled, basically. And then there was the hero shooter, as they're calling it, Crucible, that was also cancelled. And then they were going to release New World, and that's been delayed out of 2020 and is currently set to go live in the spring. That's an online multiplayer, online like RPG. So they're going to have nothing coming out till next year. And now this year, sorry, spring potentially, if it comes out. They've spent 500 million a year, and it's been going multiple years. They've been hit with they've been accused of internal bro culture, you know, where women are not afforded the same opportunities as their male counterparts. And that's with interviews with over 30 current and former Amazon employees. That it's not looking good for them.
No, I mean, to say they've hit the ground with basically just a splat is probably a good metaphor for it. I mean, for one, I forgot Luna was a thing. I forgot the Amazon making video games was a thing. And to have two canceled project, one that's delayed until maybe this year, if we even see it, is definitely not a good sign, especially when you're throwing 500 million at something like this and you're not producing anything and having two people that you've hired on already leave. It's not looking good. I don't see this making it out of 2021 potentially.
Well, it's such a weird thing because usually, and I might be wrong, maybe you can think of something, when Amazon set out to do something, they do it. And they do it, maybe not great for the consumer, and they're a big corporation that has a lot of problems, but they do it well from a business point of view. Like they have, from the tech side of things, what is it, AWS, which powers Formula One, like all the timings and data in Formula One. It's all so many all apps that are updating all the time, all done by Amazon. Amazon itself, you know, like Amazon Prime, Amazon, like all of this, Amazon Video, they do it really well. And then, yeah, I totally forgot about Amazon Luna. And this just seems like a massive fail.
It really does. And if they don't put out something soon, then I don't see this making it very long. I mean, they might try to extend it for as long as they can, but they're in not a very good spot, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't know, if I was looking at this in a layman's terms of what Amazon have done, they've seen all the money that companies make, and they've seen that the one that they will have noticed is Google Stadia.
Yeah.
And they'd have gone, do you know what? If Google can do it, Amazon can do it. And they've not realized what's actually involved in that. And they've thought of the streaming service, which is Luna, which I don't really know anything about.
No.
And they thought, well, we can make games. We've got all this money in the world. We'll throw it at it. And they've realized that maybe they're realizing that that's not how this works. and you can have all the money in the world, but it doesn't mean you can make a game.
Right.
You know, and there's been a lot of games that have come out that the people have thrown money at, and they've been terrible games. And fair play to them for not releasing anything bad, but you've got to
Right.
release something. You know, they have a 100%
Exactly.
record. They haven't had a failed game yet, but they haven't had a game.
Right.
So, like,
You
it's a
can't
difficult one.
right. You can't expect to make your investment back and not put anything out. I mean, the thing with Google,
500 million a year, Vince.
yeah, it's way too much money to be throwing at something that's not doing anything right now.
I know it's, and to be able to do that over multiple years and not worry, like, I think Bezos has too much money. I've come to that conclusion. Like,
He really does have too much money.
too much money.
No one should have that much money and not be either a supervillain or Batman, honestly.
But you see, if Bezos hadn't been spending this money, he'd still be the richest man in the world. Elon Musk would be number 2 still. So,
Sure.
well, let's see later on in the year if New World, which have you ever heard of New World?
No, I mean, to be honest, I haven't heard of either of the other ones as well that were canceled.
No,
I mean,
neither have I. Crucible rings a bell, but maybe I'm just thinking of the book. Like,
could be.
So I don't know. But New World. To put it into context on how on gamesindustry.biz, Breakaway and Crucible have links. You can click on them. It's a hyperlink that takes you to the game. New World has nothing.
Nothing.
Like, it's not even tagged in the article. So
And that's supposed
I
to
can't
be out
imagine
in spring?
Yeah, it got delayed out of 2020 and is currently set to go live in this spring.
And to have nothing, no information besides a name on it is not looking good.
No. Well, on that negative note, we will move over to European Commission call to investigate into Joy-Con drift. Another positive note. Here we go. This article is again from gamesindustry.biz, and this is by Marie D'Alessandri. The European Consumer Organization, the BEUC, is bringing the Joy-Con drift issue in front of the European Commission. The BEUC, which gathers 45 European consumer groups, said on its website that there have been nearly 25,000 complaints across Europe regarding the infamous Joy-Con drift, which sees the Nintendo Switch controllers registering movement without any input from the players. The organization has therefore submitted a complaint to the European Commission and the national consumer protection authorities for premature obsolescence and misleading omissions of key consumer information. So the Joy-Cons aren't working, shock horror, and now there's going to be potential legal ramifications towards Nintendo. Well, Joy-Con's been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, it's, if people don't know, like it says in the thing, the Joy-Con drift is where if you're not touching the analog sticks on your Joy-Con controller, your character might move and start moving. It's usually maybe one direction, and it's called drifting. And then they're saying in here that most people will have to change their controllers within the first 2 years due to Joy-Con drift, and it's just unacceptable. Like, you know, this is Nintendo. Like, you know,
for a company that makes such polished games and have pretty much fine-tuned their product, how this got away from them and how this made it to market is ridiculous. Like, how do they not know that this would be such a major thing? I mean, I get it, 2 years before it happens is kind of hard to test from a QA standpoint, but it just kind of depends on how long they actually did QA on it as well.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, how did this get past any QA? Like, and then how rigorous was the QA testing?
Exactly. I mean, the Joy-Con in of itself It's probably not my favorite controller anyway, just because it feels
Fiddly. It's too small or too delicate.
Yeah.
Like when you hold it, I think.
it almost does feel cheap, and the fact that they got Joy-Con drift as well, even analog stick drift does kind of speak to that cheapness of it. I don't.
Well, the thing that I think is annoying the most people, and it's probably the thing that I'll take away from this, is the Switch was released on the 3rd of March, 2017.
Right.
So it's coming up to just under 4 years ago. But they haven't fixed it with newer models. They're still releasing the same. Now, you'd understand the first batch come out, there's probably wasn't any Joy-Con drift really in that first batch because it hadn't been out long enough. So second, third batches come out, and then these problems start to occur, and you put them down to at first, or maybe that was just a bad mold, whatever. But then they keep coming.
Right.
But then Nintendo was still releasing the same batch, and openly, it's just, well, you're going to have to buy some more in 2 years. Like, that's the bit that bugs me. Computers, all these companies can have mistakes, but rectify it. Don't just keep selling the same, excuse my French, but shit. Like, and then just going, well, just buy another one in 2 years. It just screams of being just a little bit disrespectful to the consumer.
It is. And the fact that they keep putting out new colors and new systems without even addressing any of the issues they have, as you said, is ridiculous. Like, how are you going to keep manufacturing this thing that has this obvious flaw and not do anything about it? I know they offered to fix them for free a while back.
Yeah,
but the fact that you even have to fix them or replace them is a problem.
Yeah, it's like, I don't care about
Microsoft
my Animal
didn't
Crossing
get away
Switch.
with this.
So what were you saying, Vince?
Like, well, when the Red Ring of Death happened to the 360 and they were replacing models, they obviously took initiative to fix that problem with, refreshes and newer models. But to go 4 years with a knowable problem that is more than likely very fixable and to not do anything really about it is very shitty on Nintendo's part.
Yeah, for a company that is supposed to be the consumer friendly, family friendly, but we know they love to sell a product. Like, and I don't care about having an Animal Crossing painted Switch. Just give me a controller that isn't going to break after a year. It's just going back to what you said about Xbox. I think, I remember the 360 obviously having the problems, and we spoke about that on the podcast. If you haven't seen the podcast, go over see the podcast. We vote to see what is the best gaming console of all times. I didn't win. Vince didn't win. No. Like, it was sad times. But I remember they released the black one, the Elite.
Yeah.
The Xbox 360. Great name for a second console. And that kind of fixed the problem.
Oh, yeah.
It was like they've released a new model. Okay, it was a little bit more expensive, but they were fixing it on the older models. But they released this model, and it's like, this fixes everything. But you could almost guarantee if the Nintendo release the Switch Pro, they're not going to change the controllers.
No.
They'll beef up the system, but they're not going to change the controllers until they get to the Switch 2 or whatever they do next. That would be the only time the controllers change. And it's shitty from Nintendo.
It is. It's a weird thing because, like, obviously you mentioned you have the Animal Crossing one. And with that Joy-Con drift, like, you're probably not going to want to use the Joy-Cons that comes with it because you don't want to miss out on those special edition Joy-Cons.
Yeah, exactly. So then you're going to buy a set of maybe the neon Joy-Cons or the original color ones or one of the stupid amount of colors that you can get now, and then just keep those ones. The controller itself is quite fiddly anyway. It's not just it's not just a problem with the drift, which is the one that everyone goes on about, but the slider Like when you're
Oh,
taking
yeah.
that on and off, that eventually gets to a point where it'll just come off. The lock doesn't work. Like
Mhm.
I'm quite careful with my controllers. It's very rare that controllers break, and so I'm a little bit anal retentive with it. I have one controller that I use, and then I have guest controllers, and if they break, they replace them. I have mine; it never breaks. Um, and but the Switch, I don't have any Joy-Con drift, but it's you're worried every time. Every
Oh,
time
yeah.
you're playing it, it's like, ooh.
Yeah, there
And they
was
don't know what
it's
causes it.
right.
It's not consumer error. It's
Nope.
oh, okay.
Oh, you've gone.
I'm saying shut up, Adam. It's not consumer error. It's just
No,
production error.
exactly.
So anyway, I think we've made our opinions really clear on the Nintendo Switch Joy-Con issue there. On to
Yeah.
something a bit more fun. Uh,
Mhm.
PlayStation files a patent for technology that lets spectators mess with you in VR. This is from IGN and it's by Jordan Ollerman. PlayStation has filed a patent for technology that lets audience members participate in virtual reality content, making decisions for the active player or, just messing with them. The patent was filed in October of 2020, but was recently published. The patent's copy talks about how audience members will be able to participate in games with another user while another user is immersed within virtual reality. They will be able to make decisions for the player via spectator devices, which he goes on to say will probably be mobile phones, in a manner similar to PlayStation's PlayLink technology used in games like Hidden Agenda. Uh, it looks like you'll be able to help or screw over the main player in virtual reality depending on the available choices. According to the patent, this will augment the VR scene based on the spectator's input in response to the interactive content of the audience participation content. And it goes on a lot more into that. Yeah, so being able to mess with people in VR.
It sounds like a ton of fun, honestly.
Oh,
Especially with like, say they get horror games, and for example, like
that's
Resident
where
Evil
my mind
8.
went.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like you can have someone so immersed in the world, and then you're just on your phone dropping in jump scares or like monsters and all sorts of really fun stuff
Oh, yeah.
that could probably make the other players shit themselves. Or,
I would
I
be
mean,
terrified, but yeah. I
absolutely.
think it looks great. They use an example of letting them choose a weapon, and it's a sword, a monster, which was or of some sort, or a soup ladle, and they choose soup ladle. It's just a drawing for the patent office. But my mind goes a little bit further, so I'm going to take you on a little journey now, Vince.
All right. Ready?
Imagine you're in VR. It's quite a dark, misty sort of building room, and you're walking through and basically the people in the audience can set the traps that you have to overcome. So it's like an escape room almost. You've got to survive, but maybe the door is maybe got a booby trap behind it. They can set up the jump scares where things are going to pop out, and basically you maybe have challenges that you have to complete, react quickly enough, and it builds up the tension. If you step on they could choose a step for you to step on, and if you step on it, it's going to send arrows at you. Like you can really go immersive with it. Like
It's
I know they
genius.
won't, and it'll be very simple games, and you use your mobile phone, and
Right.
like it'll turn into like Jackbox but in VR.
Mhm.
But which I'm not complaining that, but they
No.
could do so much with this. Having someone be able to interact with you in VR instead of having to have two VR headsets and all of that equipment, which probably 90% of the people who use VR don't have two headsets.
Pretty
So
much.
they're kind of on their own in VR, which is kind of a
Right.
lonely experience. So
Which,
having people that can do it with you, like,
right.
oh,
It could
my
increase the
mind.
experience, kind of like a party game style. But do you remember Fable Legends for? I think it was Legends for the
Yeah,
Xbox
the one,
One.
yeah, the Fable Legends. I remember that one.
Yeah. So if you don't remember, that was a 5-player game where 4 people, was it 5 maybe,
think
four
so.
people played as heroes and there was one main villain. And your idea reminded me of that because the villain could place traps and monsters for the heroes
Yeah.
to overcome. I think something like that implemented in VR, if they do it right, would be really fun. But
Oh yeah.
instead of the, well, probably keeping the 4v1 play style, but with the 4 manipulating the one's VR experience.
Yeah, I think that'd be really good.
I think it would too.
Yeah, they have it as 4 people on a couch against the one. So yeah, I think it just sets up a lot of fun and challenges that you can do. Like I remember the is the what was the no, I Expect You to Die, which was like the spy game, where you sat down quite stationary. A game along those lines, but they give you the tools that you have, and they can set stuff up, and it depends how in depth they go with it. If you want a quick couch game, then I think something like Fable Legends, that style of game would work really well for this. An arena style fighting game where they can choose what weapons are allowed in the arena and what weaknesses you might have. So they might make you really small, or they might make you really slow. Like, and you have to react to this, or they can choose the enemies that are going to come in. And yeah, I think it's a really it gives them a lot of possibilities.
Oh yeah. So being a big PlayStation guy, what franchise would you like to see take advantage of this?
Of this technology or VR in general, because that's two different things.
Let's go with both.
Okay,
for the interesting
what franchise would I like to see? Well, one kind of it now. Obviously, if they could do it well enough. So I'm not saying that the current capabilities they'd be able to do it well. One's a more simple one. I'd love a God of War where basically you just stood there throwing the Leviathan axe at people's heads. Like that would be very good. Just launching the axe and catching it. That would be good. I would love a small Last of Us experience.
Oh,
like
that would be fantastic.
Yeah, like just inside maybe a very walled off, maybe a house or something like that, and there's clickers in the house or whatever, and you got to sneak, you got to be quiet, you got to look, and then you got to fight them, and it's crazy. That would be really good. So I think they're probably my two big ones. This style of game, I think you nailed it. A game like Fable Legends, so something similar to that, I think would work really well. I don't think. I think you've probably hit the nail bang on the head. What this would be perfect for. What about yourself? If Xbox released their, because you can't use Oculus with Xbox, can you? Or
no, I don't think.
No, so there's nothing Xbox over on it. Microsoft, yeah. So on your PC, if you got the Oculus, what would you like to see if you could bring over an Xbox game?
If I can bring over an Xbox game, honestly, VR would probably really work well for Halo. Honestly,
yeah.
I mean, being a first-person shooter anyway, a VR style Halo game would be amazing. Also Forza, honestly, a VR style Forza game would be immaculate. Honestly,
because their interiors are really good anyway, like on their cars and stuff like that. Like Forza Horizon, like it's perfect. I thought you'd say Gears. Imagine just Gears of War, first person Gears of War, like
first person Gears of War would be incredible. But I don't know how well that would work in. Yeah, I don't know how well that would work in VR. But as far as the play with other people technology, I would probably say like Forza Horizon.
Yeah.
So imagine you're driving along, right? You're in a race and people can drop in ramps, they can drop in tire spikes. Oh, just imagine how much you could fuck someone over with, especially doing like a time trial or something. That would be incredible.
That would be good. Yeah, I think because I remember Forza Horizon at the last one. One of the DLCs was the Lego DLC.
Oh yeah.
Like, and this would work perfectly for that, having the Lego cars, and I think that would work really well. Yeah, I think I didn't get to do VR really on. I didn't want to, even though you could on the PlayStation 4, and obviously it worked better on the PlayStation Pro. I didn't want to put pressure on my PlayStation 4. I needed it to last for the rest of the console generation, so I was like, I'm not going to do VR on that. But when I eventually get a PlayStation 5, still haven't got a PlayStation 5.
Surprise, surprise.
I know, shocking. I think one of the first things I'll do is get like PlayStation VR and start to work through because there were some great games as well. There was like Blood and Glory, I think it was called, or
that sounds right.
There's Blood and something. That's gonna bug me.
Blood and Truth.
Blood and Truth. That's what I was thinking. I got mixed up between Guts and Glory and Blood and Truth. I think you're right. It's Blood and Truth.
It was the Until Dawn one, right?
No, Blood and Truth was.
Oh right, Until Dawn was Rush of Blood.
So yeah, Blood and Truth was developed by London Studio. It was like the fighting game. It was like shooting and fighting, and it was really good. They're the company that made The Getaway, the old PlayStation 2 game, which was a great game. I would love them to I know it was featured on Kind of Funny's. I think that was PS I Love You. Yeah, Kind of Funny's PS I Love You, when they were doing games that deserved a reboot or whatever. Yeah, that was mentioned on there, and it's an incredible game, The Getaway. So yeah, I'd probably play through that. So that's been the news today. I don't think there's anything else to discuss. We've got Amazon throwing money away.
Basically.
We've got Nintendo making money from controllers.
Broken
We've got PlayStation splitting up friendships. That's a
very good way to put it.
Well, like, can you imagine being in a horror game if your friends could choose how to screw with you?
Oh yeah, it'd be a nightmare, but in the funnest possible way.
Oh, it would be hilarious for both people as well. Like, I don't know how I feel about VR horror. I'm not a big horror games sort of guy anyway. I don't really watch horror films. I'm not really scared of horror films. I just find them usually quite boring because it's all about the scare and not the story. But horror games terrify me. If I'm controlling it, no thank you. Put that controller down. I remember playing Outlast. Was it Outlast?
Probably.
Yeah, I think Outlast. And I did not get far into that game. I was just like, nope,
couldn't do it.
That controller's done. But yeah, guys, so that has been the news. This is your Sunday news, but you'll see this on Monday. This week we have the podcast being filmed. That'll be fun.
Oh yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, we've got the podcast, which will be me, Vince, and Terry, and then we have the news again with me and Terry, and the news again with Terry and Vince, and then you'll be back with us. Like, you lucky devils. But guys, have a great day, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.